It's time for Forward Nation Radio. Now here he is, the host of Forward Nation Radio, David Leventhal.
Welcome to Forward Nation Radio with me, David Leventhal. Thank you for joining us this week. A special show will focus on the latest numbers about the economy that Trump has been bragging about for some time. What do they mean? What does it mean to our listeners? Don't turn off your dial just yet, unless if anybody actually has dial at this point. Don't turn off your podcast at this point or turn off Spotify, because this is actually everything you need to know about the economy, and so you can show up at cocktail parties.
But like in a fun way. Economics
can be
fun.
But in a fun way.
Yeah.
Right. The fun way to look at economics. First, of course, you can't avoid this. We are in the midst of the Rick Gates testimony in the Paul Manafort trial. A trial that we keep being told is not about the president, is not about the Mueller investigation. And yet, this is, I'm pretty nervous about this one. I think this trial is incredibly important, and it is incredibly important to what's going to happen with the president, what's going to happen with possible impeachment or the future or the special counsel, etc. If Manafort is acquitted in this trial, does anybody doubt that the entire narrative on the right will be, see, Trump is vindicated? This just shows this whole thing was a witch hunt. I think when we talk about what's Trump going to do with the special counsel, is he going to fire Mueller? Is he going to fire Rosenstein, which could lead to the firing of Mueller, et cetera, et cetera? I think that the Manafort trial result will go a long way in addressing what happens afterwards with the independent counsel.
And you would just really hope to think that Mueller knew that it could be used in such a way so that they really prepped with this, because, like you said, it's going to be something where if for some reason he is acquitted, or even if he's not even charged with anything that seriously, because you can expect that spin, then it's going to be used to say, this was a witch hunt. But we'll see how it goes.
That's right. I think that's an important point. That I think you got to figure with this trial, with the publicity and all that's going on, it is to some extent a referendum on the credibility of Mueller, and we've been assuming all along that this guy is very professional. His team is very professional. These guys know what they're doing. And here's the first test, really, in front of a jury of how well. Now, again, it's not really being done by Mueller. This is the Department of Justice, referred by Mueller. But it reflects on how well they have dotted their I's and crossed their T's. If there is a quick guilty verdict, I think that sends a very strong message. If he is somehow acquitted, I think, again, that we should be really concerned about what Trump is going to do to end the Mueller investigation. And I think that all over Fox News and right-wing media, you will be reading and hearing all about how this is absolute vindication for the president. Obviously, if he is convicted, you will be hearing all over the right from Trump that, once again, this had nothing to do with the president, no collusion. But it will, again, be sending a message that there was a lot of corruption going on, that these guys know what they're doing, that this was not a complete witch hunt. I guess, to some extent, of course, the right has just completely ignored all of the indictments and the guilty pleas when they say that nothing's come of this. Now you've got a trial. That's not to say that right-wing media isn't just going to say, well, it doesn't really matter anyway. None of this really reflects on the president. But and Mueller really hasn't done anything well. This was the Department of Justice. But this just makes it harder and harder for them to just dismiss all this as a witch hunt.
But let's not wait for the spin at all. It doesn't matter. We ought not to be people who sit at home waiting for what the news tells us. When you look at what's actually going on, you know that throughout your life, where there's smoke, normally there tends to be fire. Sometimes some people get off on a technicality. We don't think that's going to happen here with the amount of prep that has surely gone into these cases. But let's not wait for media to really tell us how to think about something. I mean, that's part of the problem. We ought to be able to use, and I've said this many times, our own eyes and ears. The fact that everybody in the Trump world and their mother is being investigated and indicted or in jail should really
and their president as well, of course.
I mean, chanting "lock her up." I mean, this is a classic example of framing your enemies, spreading what you're actually doing and casting that upon your enemies, so that when it comes back at you, it's harder for somebody to take that position because it makes it sound like you're being petty or trivial by saying, "Well, that's not me, that's you."
Yeah, I like this is a good opportunity to go with your eyes and just use your eyes and ears example that you like to use. This is just remarkable. You see what's been going on right now, the Gates testimony, and it's just, what a bunch of sleazebags. It's just, you look at what's going on, and the best thing that people are saying that Manafort has going for him at this point is just how sleazy Rick Gates is, the guy who's testifying primarily against him, the strongest prosecution witness, Rick Gates. And he's just so sleazy, as is pointed out, of course, when you're dealing with in this kind of a milieu, you're not generally dealing with upstanding citizens. But it is just remarkable how sleazy these guys are. And another reminder, Trump came in promising to drain the swamp, right? And Paul Manafort, whatever happens, is clearly an absolute sleazebag. This was Donald Trump's campaign manager. I know he had something to do with the campaign for only, 40 days or something? What did Trump say about that one? He basically had something to do with the campaign for like 40 days or something, 48 days, when it was about 10 times that. But this was Trump's campaign manager, and obviously a long-time Republican Party stalwart. So, interesting what happens with that trial. Anyway, we want to move over. Jobs reports have come out this week, and report on wages. Trump, of course, has been spending the last, how long has he been in office? Every day he has been in office, literally, from his first day in office when he came out and said that the job numbers, the economic numbers that he was ridiculing when Obama was the president, suddenly, they're great, and look, Trump is already making a difference in his first day. So literally from his first day in office, Trump has been touting his economic numbers. So how are the economic numbers doing, and what do they signify? Because I expect that for most of our listeners, like most of everybody, this is pretty much speaking a foreign language. So I kind of want to go over this. And again,
it's really important to know that the economy was on an uptick. I mean, you can see this increase year after year for not all of the Obama era. He still had a lot to clean up after the Great Recession during George W.'s presidency. But you see the uptick in it. But it's very important because the perception was really important, and in this case, more important than the actual facts and the actual numbers, because that's what the right played off of, the perception of the economy being poor. You see, if somebody tells you that through all the conservative news channels, then you start to believe it, even though it's really not affecting you in a negative way. But it is important to know that the numbers were going up. So, of course, whoever came in, Donald Trump, Eeyore, whoever comes in, it's going to be something where, yeah, they're gonna benefit from it just by being there. All you have to do is show up, basically.
Basically, a couple of things there. First of all, the economy, I guess, doesn't run like a sports car. It runs like a Mack truck. It doesn't stop and turn on a dime. The economy takes a long time to rev up or to rev down, as the case goes. And it builds, and it takes some time to change direction and change course and move the numbers very much. So the idea that, of course, that Trump changed anything overnight is just ridiculous. And as Damien, as you pointed out, as we pointed out a lot on the show before, the numbers, if you look at the numbers, things like job creation or economic growth, it's a line that hasn't altered very much from the last few years of the Obama administration to the first year of the Trump administration. It's clearly a continuation of what has been going on before. And that leads to, I think, what may be the most entertaining news of the week, or even the most entertaining tweet of the week. And ironically, the most entertaining tweet of the week was not from Donald Trump. It was from Paul Ryan, our soon-to-be former Speaker of the House. Ryan tweeted, did you see this? Ryan tweeted when the numbers had come out about jobs. This was the great, I think it was job growth. This was the greatest job growth that America has seen since 2016. And it's just, you listen to the first part that says, you're like, wow, the greatest job, Trump is great, it's amazing. Look what, wait a minute, since 2016?
Yeah, who was president then?
Aren't we just in 2018? I mean, normally when somebody says this is the greatest whatever we've had, it's usually not since yesterday. Okay? Honey, this was the greatest meal I have ever had in the month of August 2018. Not terrible, but not quite saying the same thing. 2016 wasn't that long ago.
See, it sounds weird, but it sounds completely weird when you bring it to dinner. But for some reason, in politics, it's right at home.
It's just, because they just assume that people don't listen or don't do the math or don't know what year they're living in. To come out and say this is the greatest numbers we've seen since a year and a half ago, it's just not particularly overwhelming. But of course, as you pointed out, the other fun part of the Ryan tweet is Barack Obama was the president then. So is this going to be Trump's campaign bumper sticker in 2020, assuming he lasts that long? Donald Trump, best president since Barack Obama. Is that going to be the bumper sticker? We are almost Obama-like in our economic numbers. Is that unbelievable? We are almost Obama-like.
Similar language that they've been using as well are things like, oh, this is the best that the economy has been in a while. But when you think about that, if your economy is ticking upwards before the current president, and it continues to tick upwards, and you have a relatively newer president, of course it's going to be the best numbers. Again, just insert person here. It could be a cardboard cutout. It could be Donald Trump, whoever it is. Of course, it's going to be the best numbers since, just like the deficit's going to be the worst since, conversely.
Yeah, and of course now, just best since, let's also understand that the latest numbers that came out regarding wages are not good at all. Let's be clear on that. What they are indicating is that wages, real wages, which means wages compared to inflation, buying power of wages, what the wages actually mean, have actually gone down.
Who could have seen that one coming?
Who could have seen that one coming? There are two things.
Yeah, but you mean like tax cuts for the wealthy and corporations didn't result in?
Well, they're on their way to trickling down, Damien. Don't put the cart before the horse. They're on their way to trickling down, and eventually, I assume when there's another Democratic president, it will trickle down to the poorer people, the middle class in America. Those tax cuts for rich people trickle down because Democrats, of course, will be raising taxes on rich people, and that will work. And the Republicans will say, "See, this is finally we're going to go back to what we've seen with Ronald Reagan."
But let's understand the sarcasm in that. You will not see this coming to you because rich folks are just inherently fixated on making more money, securing their wealth, and securing their legacy. So this means stockpiling. You're not going to see the increases. If you think that folks who participate in greedy endeavors daily, you wake up early to do this. You go to bed late to do this. They're not just all of a sudden gonna have a change of heart and say, yeah, I got a couple of extra pennies. Let me throw this way. Of course, unless it's like a tax write-off, but it's really not going to be anything significant.
Yeah, the idea, this is the basics. We've ridiculed SupplySide Economics so often on the show. The idea that if you give rich people more money, it will trickle down and everybody will benefit as a result. After years of trickle-down, decades of trickle-down economics, after the architects of trickle-down economics have come out and ridiculed their own theory, Republicans are still peddling it, but the facts are in. If you give rich people more money, you will have, wait for it, richer rich people, which if you look around is exactly what's been happening. And now the latest numbers, and we'll talk about why wages haven't been going up, because frankly, wages should be going up at this point based on basic economics. And SupplySide Economics, which is give rich people more, was a reaction to basic Keynesian economics, which has proven successful in addressing our economic problems, which has proven to work in the real world, and which Republicans don't like because it basically doesn't justify giving rich people more money. We're going to talk about basic Keynesian economics and what's been going on and why our economic system is doing what it's doing. And one question there is why, at this point, wages haven't been going up, which we'll address later on. But the supply side economics is what you tell people when you're just trying to loot the country, as we've been talking about for many weeks now. The Republican Party is right now liberated from actually believing in anything and actually wanting anything positive for anything but themselves. When all you are about is looting the country, it really has to be tremendously liberating and really open things up for you. And that's what we're seeing. We've been seeing it for a long time. We will see, the usual will come out, that eventually when Democrats get in office and unwind this and that helps the economy, you'll hear Republicans come out and say, see, this is just Trump from a long time ago. And we know that because this is what happened with Ronald Reagan. When his promised tax cuts didn't do what they were supposed to do and reduce our deficit, give the government more money, improve our economy, Republicans first came out and said, well, it was because we didn't really do Reaganism. And then when things got better under Bill Clinton, the Republicans said, this is finally Reaganism's impact years later, because it does take a while for these things to take effect. So it doesn't matter, just work for the end. Now, why does it take a while for these things? What does basic economics tell us and what's been going on? In 2007, of course, we had the Great Recession. We went into the Great Recession. And many of our listeners, of course, have heard the term recession a lot. And like most normal people who go on with their lives, don't really know what a recession is. A recession is basically an economic slowdown. Recession is when you're not making as much stuff, when your economy is shrinking, when your economic output is shrinking. That basically is a recession. Now, why are we concerned about recessions? Very simply, when your economy is shrinking, people are buying less, companies are making less. What happens next? Well, what happens next, of course, when companies aren't selling as much stuff, is they're laying off workers. Now, workers are getting laid off because the economy isn't going along too fast. So people get laid off, and what happens then? Well, that depresses demand even more. That suppresses, by demand, we just mean consumers' interest in buying stuff. When people are losing their jobs, or when people are afraid of losing their jobs, that obviously greatly decreases spending. And since that's decreasing spending, companies need to make less stuff. And therefore, more people will get laid off. Well, when more people get laid off, that's going to suppress spending even more, which will in turn result in more layoffs. This is a vicious cycle that leads to an economic spiral downward in huge unemployment and lack of economic growth. So what do? How do you get out of something like this? You need to do something somehow that stimulates demand. Now, of course, the Republican solution to this, which was tried under George W. Bush when he faced a recession early in his tenure, and under Reagan, is you give more money to rich people. You give more money to the capitalists, you give more money to the owners. The theory being, as we are hearing now with the tax cuts for corporations, that if you give corporations billions and billions of dollars more money, they will use that money to make more stuff and hire more workers. Well, here's the obvious flaw in that theory. Companies are laying off workers because they don't have customers. If you give companies more money to make more stuff when they're already loaded with inventory that they cannot sell, Just very simply, are they going to use that money to hire more workers and make more stuff?
It's like let's invest in filling our filling our warehouses and stores with stuff that people are obviously not going to buy. At that point, of course, they're outspending what they're going to be getting in just to make those goods.
Right. This is 2016. We could be trying to stimulate the manufacturing of Tamagotchis, but no matter how much money we give Tamagotchi manufacturers, there's got to be a more recent example than this. Do our listeners know Tamagotchis?
I wouldn't bet on it.
What's more? In other words, the latest fad. Tamagotchis were a huge fad. Like most fads, eventually people moved on to something else. And so warehouses were loaded with these Tamagotchis that nobody could get rid of. So now if you give these manufacturers a break, more money to make Tamagotchis, will they make Tamagotchis? And the obvious answer is, of course they won't. They can't sell the ones they already have. So what are they going to do with the extra money? They're going to pocket it. This is what we've been arguing for months on this show. This is what's clearly going on with the Trump tax cuts. We've given corporations hundreds of billions of dollars, and what have they done with that money? They've pocketed it. They've given it, because that's unfair. The executives running these corporations have given it to themselves.
You've been listening to Forward Nation Radio with David Leventhal.